Just before we dive back into the episode, I wanted to quickly share something that might interest you, especially if today's conversation has got you thinking about your own sustainability work. Some of the things we hear most in this industry are, I wish I could connect with other people doing this work, or I'd love to turn my sustainability expertise into something more. Well, 51 to Carbon Zero, the sponsor of this podcast, have created their own referral network. And it does exactly that. This isn't about selling you something, it's actually about helping you make money while building the sustainability community we all need. So here's what's in it for you. First, you get to join a genuine community of sustainability experts who share knowledge, refer work to each other, and solve problems together. So, no more working in isolation. Secondly, there's real money involved. There's 10% plus commission on software referrals. We're talking about projects that go from 30 grand up to 100 grand. Plus, you'll be able to boost your presence by taking part in our fireside chats. I've actually got an email in front of me from Louise Stevens, one of the ambassadors, and it says that all her clients are genuinely happy because she's got a great partner and her clients love them. But here's the bigger picture. You'll be helping accelerate the sustainability transition that we all desperately need. Every referral, every connection, every collaboration moves us closer to the world we're all working towards. If this resonates with you and you want to earn some extra income, click the link in our show notes to become a 51 to Carbon Zero ambassador. Okay, back to the show. Welcome back to the Green Element podcast, where we feature business leaders and innovators transforming their operations to be more environmentally and socially sustainable. I'm your host, Will Richardson, and I can't wait to meet our guest today and help you on your journey of sustainability. Hello. Welcome to the Green Element podcast. I am so looking forward to welcoming our guest today, Steve Malkin from Planet Mark. Planet Mark are a very innovative and different certification, helping you and your organisation reduce that environmental footprint year on year. We explore aspects of environmental management, what is it that you can do to reduce, and some best practice out there. Steve, welcome to the Green Element podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to understand more about Planet Mark and how you set it up, why you set it up, and what drove you to set it up, and also to find out where you see yourself going and what sort of things are you trying to achieve in the future.
Quite good. Well, there's an intro. Yes, thank you. Let's nail that down in the next 30 or 40 minutes. I'd love to do that. But yes, well, come on then. Let's press launch control and get in there. Yeah. So
Brilliant.
yeah, I'm Steve Malkin, founder of the Planet Mark, and very, very passionate about the subject we're about to talk about.
So what was your background before you set up Planet Mark?
Oh, crikey. Okay, so I've got quite an unusual background, but anyway, let's summarize it briefly. I trained as a civil engineer years and years ago, which I loved. I always find engineers great to work with. They kind of sort of give them a problem, they'll solve it. So that was really a great background. Loved that. I was doing some car racing, interestingly, at the time in my younger years. So did some karting and car racing, and I went to work at Brands Hatch motor racing track. Which is one of only ever two jobs I've ever been employed to do. And then sort of set up my own sort of PR and marketing consultancy, which I ran for a number of years. Along the way, we broke some Guinness World Records, helping people, have great fun together, coming together to raise money for charity, but doing something really exciting at the same time. And then when I had three boys, I had a bit of an epiphany, as we all do, don't we? And realised that maybe if I had a modicum of talent, then it could be better directed. So I got into the whole sort of green thing, and and have been doing that for the last 16 or 17 years.
Brilliant. And what drove you to set up Planet Mark? And that kind of, rather than going to consultancy or maybe going to
Yeah.
something like Forster, other PR companies, what's drove you to a certification?
I think it's really so. I think that having done the marketing and the PR work, I think they realised that everything that you know we can talk about with confidence and authority and is underpinned by truth. So and it certainly was for the type of work that we were doing in PR and marketing. So there was a nugget of truth underlying everything. When we moved into when I moved into looking at climate issues, I think the engineering part of it came through, which is we need to measure stuff and quantify stuff to understand what the situation is. And then if you overlay some communication on top of that, then you can support change to happen because it's evidence based activity. And so the certification idea really came from that. Um, and so the ability to quantify activity and change and play that back to people and communicate it to people, then it helps reinforce that change and perhaps direct it as well. And that, I suppose, underpinned the concept of a certification like the Planet Mark.
And you're unique at Planet Mark, I think. You may just go, actually, there are other people that do this, but you're unique in the fact that your certification, you have to reduce year on year. And in order to achieve and keep your certification. Is that right?
It is right, yeah. And I suppose we're not unique in that perspective. But I think, and we are from an annual perspective. So each year, every organisation that we work with needs to at least measure and reduce its carbon emissions.
Mm.
And we're about to announce our sort of latest stats. We have a 99.3% success rate in the Planet Mark, which we're proud
Brilliant.
of, and that keeps pushing us, and it helps keep pushing the organisations we work with. So 99.3% of organisations who want to hold it, they get it, they retain it, and that means that they're measuring and reducing carbon. But as you know, it's life isn't restricted to it's an interconnected world. So we're also now measuring social value, and this is sort of an organisation's contribution to society. So we're going to overlay that as well as the carbon. We're going to be measuring social value as well. So social and environmental measurement and reporting are going to go hand in hand.
Brilliant. And as I mean, do you practice what you preach?
Yes, yeah. So we kind of walk the talk, right? So
Mm.
yeah, we measure our carbon, we measure our social value. It's very important that we do that because clearly it's important because we ask every organisation to do it. Every company on the planet could be measuring and reducing its carbon and would see a benefit from doing it. Every single company could do that. They could do it right now. So yeah, we've been doing it. We do it for we're obviously doing it for a long time. Um, but it also sort of raises sort of issues in around how do we get data, how do we improve data, and how do we continue to affect change and reduce our emissions given the fact they're quite low. So we need to face the same challenges as every holder of the Planet Mark, and arguably be a step ahead.
And are you able to? I'm just thinking of all you said 99.3% of your businesses have reduced. I mean, is there a way for people to learn off each other on that? I mean, is that something that you're able to do, or?
Yeah, 100%. So like everybody out there, what we don't want to do is reinvent the wheel.
Mm.
And there's a lot of knowledge and great insight sloshing about in different places, be it on the internet or in every individual's person, that has great, ways of driving sustainability and delivering practical measures to do that. So we share, free content all the time, free knowledge toolkits, and we just put it in the public domain and enable people to access it. So within our member network, obviously, but also, outside it. So, for any listener here today, if they want some information, we can, give you some signposting to that. But it can come in different forms and forums, can't it? So we digest and access information, or access and digest information in different ways. So we try to make it readily available for different formats, be it carbon clinics, which you can get for free, roundtables, webinars, or just toolkits so you can sit and read.
What's the most intuitive or kind of fun thing that you've seen an organization do? I mean, I know that's a really hard question for me to ask because you're like, what? Really? We have hundreds of people. I'm just wondering if there was anything that stood out, or you're like, actually, a lot of them are really good, or because I don't know how I would answer that myself, which is why I'm kind of like,
Yeah, thanks for throwing that particular curveball in. So, so it's like saying, what makes you interesting? You go, so what's the most? So I tell you. So look, um, first of all, creativity has got a role to play in sustainability, right? Because some of the stuff we do dealing with is quite hardcore, and some of it, just doesn't float people's boats. Like measuring carbon isn't everyone's cup of tea, or even talking about it. So creativity and the ability to sort of engage people in different ways that suits them is very, very important. Our relationship with the Eden Project is kind of founded on some of that stuff, I suppose. So we try and take some of the ways that they go about dealing with tricky issues and making them very personal and very relevant is great. So, putting people in touch with nature, which is a typical Eden-esque type of work, is a great way of doing it. A company that really springs to mind that I was kind of blown away with is a company called Rowlinson Knitwear. And Rowlinson Knitwear make school uniforms, right? And they work with factories in Egypt, I think in Asia. There's two factories there, and they're an employee-owned business of about 100 people. And what they do is they do fairly regular sustainability days. You go, well, everyone does those things, right? Well, this company did it really in a different way. So they brought in a few sort of different experts. The whole company shut down for a day, and groups that would move from different sort of experts that are set up to provide different types of conversations. Yeah, but they made it really engaging by asking people. They turned it into games. They had games in around sustainability, what we could do, how we could do things better. And then they presented some awards at the end of the day for the best ideas. There were prizes on offer. They got an outside caterer to provide some fantastic, fabulous vegan food. They'd bake their own cakes, so they just got everyone involved across the business. So yeah, there's a creative element to that, but there's also a really practical element to it. And then what the outcomes of that activity in that day for shutting down your business to do that, they got a load of really, really good ideas. Yeah, and everyone was bought in. And I think it's that mix of practical and sort of creative.
oh, that sounds cool. Brilliant. And so Planet Mark, and I would be it would be wrong for me not to mention ISO 14001, for example. What would you see the fundamental differences between Planet Mark and ISO 14001?
Okay, so there's common ground in there that I suppose in many respects we're both environmental management systems, but we kind of go about it in different ways. So 14001 is a great EMS, environmental management system. Provides a brilliant framework, doesn't it, for organisations, right? What you might need to be doing within that is sort of where we're different is that we're using existing company data around around consumption, be it energy, water, waste, travel, transport, that type of stuff. We collate all of those different metrics, if you like, and we net them into carbon. So we take a bunch of different metrics and we turn it into a carbon footprint for a company. So you've already got that data. Yeah, we help collect and collate it and give you a system for doing that. Turn it into carbon, and we use that as a baseline, a quantifiable baseline for performance. We're using carbon as a proxy for sustainability. So you say, right, that's our carbon footprint this year. Next year we need to reduce it to get this, to hold on to the planet mark. How can we go about doing that? And it's that question then that drives change. How can we do better? Yeah, better one year, better the next, because it's a rolling annual baseline. Your previous year is your new baseline, so you have to beat it. and beat it again and again and again. And what we found in doing this for the last 7 years in the planet mark and its forerunners before that, over a decade, is some of these companies out there have been reducing carbon relentlessly for 10 or more years. Yeah, and there could be companies in the field of accountancy, legal, or construction, or wherever they are, cross sectors. They cut carbon relentlessly year on year on year. It's totally possible to do that. And then
Okay.
the last bit, in terms of, we're not an acronym, we're not a bunch of letters and numbers, right? So there's a long history of great work with the ISOs. Yeah, it's fantastic. But actually, to a lot of people, they don't know what that stands for. They don't know what 14001 stands for. So we decided to call our certification something that people might understand, that if they see the planet mark, it might mean that something, they just recognise that something good is taking place here. It signifies somebody is tackling issues in around the planet and society, and that communication device we think is very, very important to support change.
And you've mentioned the Eden Project, and what is that relationship you have with the Eden Project, and does that tie in with what you've just been talking about as well?
Yeah, I think so, because we kind of went down to Eden and saw. We were introduced to Sir Tim Smith and his team some years ago. Eden is a charity. They're actually a global charity, and their kind of remit is to connect people with each other and with nature. So it's a people-driven charity. Yeah, they're about people and society, how they connect with each other to bring people together, but also to connect them with nature, which we know is very sort of life-enhancing and fulfilling. And in doing that work, Eden know how to sort of communicate these issues with an individual and make them relevant to people. 1 million a year people go down to Eden, or they, up to this crazy year they did, and so they've honed this ability to communicate big issues in a very, very simple way, and that's why we wanted to partner with them. Our partnership is very relaxed, to be frank. So we want to connect people into Eden organisations because they help. Yeah, they help transform people and organisations. And also, we believe in their work in terms of spreading the word of the importance of the environment. So we give 5% of all of our certification fees into our business certification fees into Eden, and just sort of contribute to them as a charity. So it's a very close symbiotic relationship, but based on a fundamental principle that we're in a transformational time, and we and they and you and others have got a role to play in helping us transform into a thriving planet. And that's what we're based on the same philosophy.
Okay, brilliant. And what you've talked about social value, and you're starting to bring social value into Planet Mark. What if you could talk more about how do you do that, and then if we could start to explore about where you see you going and what you see the future holding.
Sure thing. Yeah. So so just before we do the social value part, we kind of got these 3 steps which I think are really important, and that's why I mean, social value measures an organisation's contribution to society, and it measures it in terms of pounds or economic value. That's a nicer way of putting it. Okay, so we've got these 3 steps about measurement, engagement, and communication in what we do, and I think that whether you work with us or anybody, those are pretty useful things to think about just in terms of framing your sustainability program. The reason why we wanted to measure social value is that it's normally in a pot in CSR. Yeah, and sometimes it's inside a company where their great work sits in their CSR programs, but they don't know how to sort of get maximum value from it, I suppose, in some respects. So that they do great stuff, but it's not always reported into a board to say, do you know what our people are doing? To support incredible work in society. Do you know how we're volunteering? Do you know the people that we're taking on? Do you know that some of the sort of the work of our organisation is, goes beyond its economic impact? It's supporting society. It has a massive role to play. And so how you measure that is there's a series of sort of proxies that you can apply to the sort of the social work you might be doing around volunteering, or taking apprenticeships, providing sort of educational support, philanthropic giving, even cutting carbon has a social value. There's different proxies, if you like, to those things. You apply those proxies to the type of work that you do, and then you equate your social value. Very similar in concept to measuring carbon. Bunch of different metrics, apply some factors to those, and then you've got your contribution. Now, if you play that back into a business, it means that a couple of things happen. One is they start to remind themselves about the stuff that they're already doing. Yeah, actually, we are doing incredible work to support local communities. For instance, yeah, we're employing people locally. We might have local supply chain, and then when you start to quantify it, then that kind of puts it in the language a board might understand. Yeah, and sometimes a board might say, "Oh, that CSR is that fluffy stuff." It's not, is it? Yeah, it's the opposite of what it is. It's the great, intrinsic value that organisation is playing out in society, and you can equate it and give it back to a board or a C-suite or wherever they are, and say, look, this is what you're doing. It's great. Do you know that, and can you do more? And as soon as you do that, they say, yeah. Wow, I didn't know this stuff. And if you want another tangible benefit from it, sometimes if you put your social value in a tender or in a pre-qualification questionnaire or a bid or something like that, say, listen, we've worked out, we know what our contribution to society is. It's this, that, and this is what it is in terms of economic impact, but it's based on stories of the work that we're doing, because the people in our company get it and they care about our society. So it's cultural. So it's an opportunity to actually sometimes win business as well. So yeah, we certainly equate it.
As it should be. As it should be.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the more people that understand how valuable it is, the more people will do it, and the more people will ask of it, and so it's self-replicating, isn't it?
100%. So if an organisation can talk with confidence and some authority, but also some humbleness about the work they were doing, given the fact that, listen, we all know we could be doing better in this rapidly changing world, and we're all trying to keep up with it. But right now, this is the work we've done. This is what we're trying to do, and this is our trajectory. Then, for a company to say that in the public domain, backed up with some evidence and support to what they're saying is truthful, then maybe others will follow suit. Because we know that purpose-led brands outperform those that aren't. That's a fact. Yeah. So, this is about purpose, and companies sort of like, are contributing. This is their time to do that.
And have you seen any common themes, trends over the last 16 years of companies? Because I know I could possibly talk about this, because we've been doing this for quite a long time. So it'd just be interesting to know your kind of what, if you've seen difference in rhetoric in conversations that you have with people, or over the last 16 or so years.
Yeah, I think that see, we've been doing it a while, haven't we? Right? Not as long as some. Yeah, we haven't quite got burnt out yet, have we? So there was a lot, early doors. There was a lot of talk, probably greenwashing type of stuff, wasn't there? I think there was a recognition, 2000s ish, about stuff that was taking place. We might have gone off the boil a little bit through our recession in the UK specifically. Right now is different. Yeah, right now is a recognition around the need to act and act with urgency, and the recognition that you need to change turn that action into change, into systemic change, and into individual change, and they will work together and hand in hand. And then we might work our way out of this sticky situation we're in.
Yeah, it's it seems that people are more on it now. It seems more important, and people understand the justification of either spending money or time in an organization to ensure that your organization is going to become more sustainable and environmental.
I think it's like there is an awakening, there is a collective consciousness. I think that organisations are coming at it from any particular angle. So there's regulatory requirement like streamlined energy carbon reporting. SECA, there's ESOS, there's regulations that start to come in. We're on a trajectory to net zero, aren't we? Yeah. It looks a long way out, but I think it's going to be coming closer and closer. So, so there's that sort of systemic stuff and regulatory stuff. I think there is, stuff around brand and brand opportunity and brand risk for organisations. I think you need to be seen to be doing it and doing it with, being genuine. I think people want to work with organisations who are aligned with their own personal values. Yeah, who wants to work for a company which is screwing the planet? Yeah, no one wants to do that. And if you are, well, okay, you're probably becoming more and more of a minority. So we're probably in a transition period now. It feels very febrile, doesn't it? There's a lot going on. It looks a little bit like the last hurrah of the old way, and maybe the new way of living and working is coming through, perhaps.
Can you tell us a bit about how you engage your staff, suppliers, customers with your mission and purpose?
Yeah, I suppose this is an interesting one for us, isn't it? Because we kind of got a shared purpose, So our purpose as an entity, as the Planet Mark, is what also, how we, very much for everyone who works with us, in the company and alongside the company, but also with every holder of the Planet Mark. And so, from a purpose, we kind of talk about a world where we all contribute to a thriving planet, and together we're a collective force for good. That's sort of our underlying purpose and our filter by which we can make our own sort of decisions. You can imagine that inside the company, there's quite a lot of passionate and knowledgeable people. And so actually it's not difficult to engage our own people. What is quite difficult sometimes is saying no, because there's a lot to do, isn't there? Yeah. So we're tackling carbon, and that's a whole thing. We're looking at social value. That's the thing. What else is on the radar? How do we embed SDGs into everything that we do? Quantifiably embed the SDGs. Do we look? How do we ensure that we and our customer base is on not only science-based targets but on a trajectory for zero carbon? How do you advise them around sort of offsetting? Yeah. How do we look at social justice, diversity, inclusion, and looking at everything about ensuring that we as an organisation are understanding our role in being positively anti-racist? Yeah, looking at accessibility into our industry, into our profession from a sustainability point of view, knowing that climate change is affecting everybody and it's an inclusive issue where there are, inclusive solutions. We need every voice around the table. How can we do that? Now, as a smallish company of 20 odd people, quite a big reach beyond that, we want to do a lot. So sometimes the challenge for us is saying, okay, what can we do really, really well? How can we get stuff onto the radar that we know is important? But it's just accepting one or two things we can't tackle right now.
And when it comes to running an ethical and sustainable business, what would you say your biggest struggle so far has been? Can you tell us a bit about how you've overcome it?
So I think the biggest struggle is actually that saying no bit, because we all want to do something, right? And we want to do more and more and more, issues, air quality and everything. Well, until we've got a system in place to follow our process of that measurement, engagement, communicate bit, then, we just have to acknowledge that we can't get everything into the Planet Mark right now. And so saying no. I think that also, we have to be very clear with ourselves and with our customer base about, it's not always what we do, it's how we do it. Yeah. So, a lot of people want to meet us. We want to meet them, but we just acknowledge the fact we're not always going to travel. Yeah, which is more, we've made that leap now, haven't we, this year? Prior to that, it was sometimes a bit of a challenge. And so I suppose just, using our purpose filter as a way that we help to make business decisions helps us make better decisions, I suppose. Does that contribute to a thriving planet? Sometimes you can get a yes or no out of that.
And can you tell us, could you offer a piece of advice to our listeners that could help them with their purpose, and what would that be?
I think that if it is the lens so if you are clear about your organization, the purpose of your organization, the first thing is be clear. Yeah, why do you exist? Ask that question, and then get the answers out across your organization. That's not just from a board perspective. If you are clear about why you exist as an organization, if you can articulate that purpose, if you have got everyone in your company bought into that, then you're going to operate, culturally from that point of purpose. And that is a really significant, enlightening step to take. What is it? Why do you exist? Does everyone understand that? And can we communicate that? And then how might we then go about running the business in that respect? Right now, this is the time for purpose-led organisations, isn't it? Because they're fleet of foot enough. Those are the people who've got passion for change, and they can deliver it. This is their time.
And I think I've kind of talked about this before, and forgive me for but do you see any common themes right now? As in, we are going through, as you've alluded to, we're talking 4 or 5 months, it's October, beginning of October, into a real difference in working. And you've been at the forefront of still certifying companies and seeing systemic change. And now, 5 months in, is there anything that you have seen that you've gone, wow, that's interesting, that's pretty cool that this is actually happening? Because you really are at the kind of cutting edge of change, as it were.
We're really fortunate to. So it's an interesting. That's a great question because we can hear stuff. So I'm always asking my team to just tell us what we're hearing, because we're hearing it from organisations who have chosen to do something, or those who who are trying to figure out how to do something and are trying to figure out what's the best thing for them to do. So carbon, reducing carbon emissions is not going away. So even through the crisis that we're in right now, this immediate crisis that we're in, the underlying climate crisis and its urgency have come through louder within this period. Yeah, prior to this period, there was a massive acceleration on uptake in terms of working with companies like our one at the Planet Mark. So and through this crisis, though, that is that momentum is still building. It's there. Yeah. So we've gone from incremental change on carbon to zero carbon. So in terms of something that we're seeing and hearing, it's definitely about zero carbon. There's still some desire for carbon neutral. Offsetting is coming back into play, because right now, to get to zero carbon, you have to be considering offsetting, at least in terms of your scope 3 emissions. Yeah. So zero carbon, carbon neutral, offsetting, all underpinned by recognition that we should be reducing carbon annually and at scale, right? So number one is that's what we're hearing. Two is that this incredible adoption of different way of working through this crisis has shone a light on actually what is possible. Yeah. So we're hearing that. Yeah, we're talking on the Zoom or Skype, whatever this is, Teams. That's happening everywhere. People are wanting to work from home. Yeah, what does that mean? Still figuring all that out, aren't we? And without question, the elevation of the sort of structural, systemic issues that sort of face people of colour around the Black Lives Matter movement is also something that this period has really sort of brought to light, I think. Yeah, as we're probably individually questioning, what makes us tick as individuals within this sort of rather sort of, I don't know, existential moment.
Mm. And how do we learn more about you and find out more about you and Planet Mark?
Well, you can follow us on Twitter, so at the Planet Mark. You can take a look at us online on theplanetmark.com. And look, people say, who do you compete with? We go, we don't. Right? What we compete with is sort of the do nothing inertia situation. So from an organisation's perspective, we don't care who you work with. Let's just get cracking together, right? And anyone in our space we think is doing a great job. Yeah. And we know that loads and loads of organisations out there are doing a great job. There's a lot that want to do more, and I think that's a sort of a space where we can support them. Other companies like ours. Get your arms around sustainability and making it sort of embedded in the company. That old cliche. Actually, it is a bit of a challenge. So but there's simple ways of doing that.
Brilliant. Thank you. Great words of wisdom. Have you? Is there anything else you want to kind of add to what we're talking about?
Great words of wisdom is always sort of. I think that actually bringing a sense of humour and humbleness to these humongous issues that we face doesn't half help, doesn't it? Yeah. Otherwise, that's our style, is to help sort of make it seem doable. Yeah. And if you can bring a sense of levity to some very tough times and tough situations, then it just helps keep everything moving and on the radar. And we know that climate anxiety is a real thing across ages and demographics, and particularly worrying amongst young people, isn't it? Yeah. So sometimes there's a way of sort of turning, uh, eradicating some anxiety by taking action. That really helps too. Yeah. So I have there's no other words of wisdom. In fact, that my personal way of dealing with this thing is to try and be on the front foot about it, and just have a slightly light touch to it in places. Yeah, that just helps keep me going on a personal basis. Yeah,
I think you have to. I think you have to just be positive and, as you say, front foot, forward thinking, just thinking about the future and pushing yourself and the organisation you're working for.
it can be. It's a tough time, but it's exciting as well, right? And somebody says, "What did you do?" I want to make sure I've got an answer to that.
Brilliant. Yeah. Steve, thank you so much for coming on to the show today and for talking to me. As always, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Well, you are a star. Yeah, just put that out there.
Thank you.
You're fab.
If you'd like to get hold of me, Will Richardson, please do at william@greenelement.co.uk, or if you'd like to get hold of us at the podcast, it's podcast@greenelement.co.uk. Thank you. So you really enjoy sustainability and want to be a part of the solution? Come and join our vibrant community now. Book a call and we can talk more.